Yes, I know I'm English, and yes, I know I shouldn't be doing this video. And yes, I'm still greatly annoyed at Gareth Southgate. Cheers, mate, for dropping the back line 10 yards further back. Cheers. Italy are weird. It feels like the only tournament they've qualified for the last over a decade, it feels like, is the only one that they've actually won. Italy are currently on path of failing to qualify for 3 World Cups in a row, which is almost impossible to think of, especially thinking that even Scotland has made their way through. Scotland are in the World Cup for the first time since 1998, and the worst part is, that's not even a rarity now. Curacao is now there, Haiti is there, Cape Verde is there. Go to an American and try to point out to them where Cape Verde and Curacao is on the map, and they'll start vomiting on the floor. Italy could maybe collapse all over again. However, I feel like there's always a bit of irony in this entire video because of
Saka.
Alright! You cheating! I do wonder if Chiellini ever did apologise to Saka for doing that. Probably not. Coming second in the group, thankfully finishing above Israel. Cheers, a nice one, lads. And they're back into the playoffs, which the playoffs they absolutely love. They lost to North Macedonia in the last minute. Again, feel free. Point to me where North Macedonia is. Italy was, of course, in the European Championships over in Germany in 2024, and it didn't go really great, did it? In the end, being knocked out by Switzerland, losing to Spain and drawing to Croatia was kind of just like... I mean, when you look at their team, just look at the current Italy team, honest to God, like, it's just so dry. For a country that's so known for its culture and for its cooking and spices and flavors, my God. This is like ordering a margarita pizza without the sauce or cheese. It's just maybe a few salt and pepper herbs on it or something. Everyone knows about the North Macedonia playoff failure, but also back in 2018, they went through the same thing, where in the end, they got knocked out by Sweden 0-0 at home, and Sweden went on through to the World Cup, which... thankfully that happened, because then we got the famous Sweden versus Germany moment. If you're Italian or you're just interested, comment down below your thoughts in the Italian national team in terms of the fall from grace. But again, it still feels weird to say that when they've literally won a major tournament only just recently. But it is a fall from grace, which still annoys me very much of what happened back in 2021. Oh, I'm not going to get out of my head. The thing is, I would be mean, because when you look at their group stages, they won every game other than the games against Norway. But they did get trumped by Norway, like both times. 3-0 and then recently a 4-1 loss at home to Norway. So comment down below your thoughts, like and subscribe. Mazor Designs for the best football prints all made by myself. 35% off all items. Use code Black Friday. Of course, Scotland and Ireland, both prints there. Parrot. Almost every single goal against Scotland as well. Get stuck in for your mother, your nan. She'll absolutely love it. Also, Everbook, custom photo books, all made by myself. Make a photo book of your day out in Hampton Park if you want, boys, or not. It's your choice. And same thing, 35% off as well for Black Friday. Go and check it out. So I'm going to start off here just by kind of listing off the most recent Italian team against Norway for that 4-1 loss, right? So we got Donnarumma in goal, who had a poor game, but you can't deny his absolute top ability. Di Lorenzo's a right centre-back, who I think is not a centre-back, he's a right-back. Politano as a right wing-back, who isn't really a wing-back. Mancini, Bastoni, Di Marco's kind of left wing-back. Midfield of Locatelli, Barella, and Fratesi, and a front line of Ratetz, yep, and Esposito. Now, in reality, unless if you watch Serie A football, you really have very limited knowledge on almost every single player in here. The only reason why you know this is if you watch Serie A football or you play FIFA. Honest to God, most of these players you kind of wouldn't really know much about. Which is fine, that's fine. Serie A football's still top level. But you're looking at the bench, and it gets worse. I'm looking at the bench, and again, unless you know Serie A football or you've played FIFA Ultimate Team, you've packed these guys 1,000 times, you really don't know anyone on this team sheet. Or if you do know them, you kind of just know them to be, you know, just normal players playing for semi-top level clubs, maybe players in the Europa League or the, you know, of course the Inter Milan players, of course, obviously. But it doesn't scream out as a top national team, does it? But this kind of downfall goes all the way back to 2010 when Italy won the 2006 World Cup against France. They kind of went into the 2010 World Cup completely underestimating how football has changed in a span of 4 years. Lippi, their manager, tried to almost do the same thing again, playing players who he trusted and had more loyalty in because of what happened previously, rather than getting in some new players to spice things up. The squad is built around Cannavaro, Gattuso. At this time was past their peak, and not bringing in players at the time would have helped a lot more. Antonio Cassano, Rossi, even Mario Balotelli. And keep in mind, the group they had, they failed to beat New Zealand. They finished bottom of a group with Paraguay, Slovakia, and New Zealand. Italy came bottom, which I think for the most part is still possibly seen as one of the biggest collapses in World Cup history when it comes to expectation to what actually happened. And New Zealand 2010 was seen as kind of old rules and playing older players, but also a factor of just arrogance. You know, it was reported, you know, since afterwards, after the fact, that the players didn't even train correctly. They were very low energy because they simply expected to walk through the group stages. They expected to just beat them just by their name alone. So when you face a Paraguay or Slovakia that's much more hardworking and much more organized, you're going to get found out, and that's exactly what happened. 2014 World Cup. The 2014 World Cup was seen as a chance to redeem themselves. However, it just showcased how far they've still fallen since that point. The showcase of the decline was still actually ongoing. Many of the greats at the time, Gianluigi Buffon, Andrea Pirlo, Chiellini were still strong at the time, but they were aging, and it wasn't really an influx of youth to really fill that void. Cassano and Balotelli was there, but of course was inconsistent. And in fairness, they did have the group of death at the time. Of course, England, we can't really say they're the strongest team in that group in reality. Of course, Uruguay, and then Costa Rica. And Costa Rica, of course, became the stars of the tournament, going through the group stages. At the time, it felt like the golden generation of Italy was gone. The Serie A was kind of losing traction compared to the rest of the other leagues. Many of the mentality problems were showing up again. That there was arguments and a bit of issues. Cassano and Balotelli seemed to always be in the papers a lot at this time period, and just causing conversation in Italy, which wasn't necessary at the time period. Of course, I am being unfair. In Euro 2012, they did reach the final. I can't just skip past that point, which seemed to be the kind of next peak of the Italian players at the time that were still reaching where they wanted to be. But of course, inconsistent, were shaky at times. That they still had players relying on, especially at the back that was aging but still solid, of course, and Balotelli was the main star, which of course had quality but inconsistent like usual of his career. I'll never forget that chip from Andrea Pirlo against Joe Hart in the knockout round, so that was quite unfortunate. What a great time to be alive. I don't know why, but this is a really weird off topic. Maybe when FIFA 12 was out and they had like the Euro 2012 mod, was a fantastic mod. There was like some kind of like create your club RTG thing where you played against each team in group stage and took one team. I don't know why that's in my mind, but that was a fantastic time to be alive. Honestly, shout out to EA when they actually had good ideas and they weren't lazy as hell. God, I miss when I was young. I'm old. Jesus. Euro 2016 in France, the vibes were immaculate. We got I don't know the song, that's just in my mind when I think about Euro 2016 for some reason. When I think of Euro 2016, I think of, for some reason, Dimitri Payet, and that's really it. And I guess that time that when Sturridge scored the winner against Wales in the group stages, and like it was at like 1 o'clock during the day, so everyone was at school. Or unlike me, because I was a cool kid and I actually was at college, so I just took my break. But that was still a great time to be alive. I always see a tweet every like few months of like someone saying, oh, I remember watching this when I was in year 3, and it's like, year 3? I was in college. I hate how old I am. My future is futile. Conte was at Italy back in Euro 2016, and Conte was known for being quite a good manager, of course, and continued on after this at Chelsea, of course, with a 3-5-2 system, aiming at wing backs and really trying to stretch the pitch out wide. And it had some good ideas, however, just didn't have the athleticism really needed to really make it really pay. They had a decent group stage though in terms of their opponents. Belgium, which at the time was seen as like the golden generation time period, Sweden, and also Ireland. And then came Germany in the round of 16, which despite leading early on was just completely just falling apart due to Germany's counter-attacks against that 3-5-2 system. This tournament highlighted an issue for Italy going forward, that they had defensive stability, however, a lack of attacking quality. Pace was really lacking here, or that kind of creative outlet, which seems to be somewhat of a trait since 2016. The 2018 World Cup failure was a historic low point, one which people thought would never be seen again until it happened again 4 years later. Losing to Sweden in the playoffs was something which Italian people thought that they would never see. Italy has always been a staple of almost every single major tournament in almost our entire lifetime, since the dawn of football. So this was a big deal. 2010 and 2014 were humiliations, and this has kind of been building up to this point. And the same issues popped up. There was a generational gap between the aging players, and there was no real young players who really fill in that void. Relying on players like De Rossi still midfield, and Buffon when they were really late on. The manager at the time, Ventura, tried some funky systems. I remember like a 4-2-4 formation position in the playoffs against Sweden, and they tried to make chances, but no one was able to take it. Similar to that Germany game, they were exposed in the counter and was just lacking quality up top. But this showcased one main issue. Their problems before wasn't a fluke, but has become a pattern, one which you think would happen again. Euro 2020, yeah, Italy won it. Mancini deserves to be the president of the country, as far as I'm aware, for what he did then. My good God. Italy, even still, when you look at that team, still didn't look like that great. That's the worst part of it all. When you look at the team, they had, of course, a good backline, very disciplined, very organized, but not an awful lot amount of pace, not an awful amount of creativity there. When you look at them on paper, it seemed quite stiff up top and rigid, but they made it work, and they made the use out of their set pieces, and they made the use out of whatever quality chances they got. Honestly, it's almost a minor miracle that they won. The vibes in either way was immaculate back in 2020, and it felt like a complete shock to the system for everyone involved in Italy. For nearly 8 years of failure since Euro 2012, 2014 was a collapse, 2010 was a collapse, 2016 was a poor but not a drastic failure, and 2018 was again the lowest point they've ever had. So to win the Euros is a miracle as far as we're all concerned. And then came the next World Cup qualifiers in Qatar. They got knocked out by North Macedonia. You know, I mean, I'm sure that we're all quite well aware of that. How did that happen? How can you go from winning the Euros to then not even able to qualify through to the main tournament? Roberto Mancini was there again, trying to bring in some youthful players to try to replace the old guard. You got Verratti, you got Chiesa, you got Barella to add some more youthful players to the mix. Sancho Tonali was also coming to fruition as well. Bonucci was still there. On paper, this looked like a strong, balanced team that should qualify very comfortably. They finished second in a group behind Switzerland, which was a shock to the system. But look, it'd be fine. They got the playoffs. They should be fine either way. Oh, wait, okay. So they may actually be facing Portugal in the final of that. Right. So we're in a situation where one of Italy or Portugal is being knocked out here of not making it to the World Cup. Everyone knew Italy, they've only got North Macedonia to beat. That'd be easy. Oh my God, this is... how did you guys do this? When this happened, I was actually so pissed off, and it made me just think, Gav Southgate, you actual Italy dominated this game, as you should expect. Control possession, had all the chances, as you would expect. They still lost. Pandev's goal in the 92nd minute stapled his name in football history forever, and collapsed Italy down to their knees. That's for you, Chiellini, you Euro 2024 in Germany. Thankfully, they qualified for this one, no issue. For the Euros, they seem to have no issue qualifying. They got Spalletti, then added this new coach for a new era for the Italian national team, which this was quite complicated in the end. In the group stages, they came second. Immobile, Locatelli, Verratti, players which seemed to have a bit of experience in this time period, wasn't put into the squad, and some new players were added in like Bastoni and so on. Italy beat Albania 2-1 despite being like 1-0 down in the first 20 seconds of the game, losing then to Spain and then getting a draw against Croatia and kind of hobbling through to the next round. They faced Switzerland up next and then lost. Spalletti was kind of thrown into the deep end quite short before the tournament even happened, meaning that they kind of had no time to actually work with the players and really form some kind of actual identity for this tournament. And the same issues popped up again, where it seemed like attacking wise they seemed to be kind of lacking of ideas and a lack of pace. But one main issue popped through here. Because of the old guard is gone, Chiellini and Barzagli and Bonucci and Buffon, and you've got now this new generation of players now which now should be coming to age with what feels to be a real lack of leaders here, that to most Italian media it felt like the squad was quite tame and were nervous in these games, and it does come across that way when you look at the team sheet now. I don't really see any kind of obvious leaders here that's kind of done it and proved it. There's maybe 2 or 3, you know, I'll say maybe Bastoni and maybe Donnarumma, but I'm looking at the team here and I just kind of see players that are good filler, but no one that really stands out. And now this leads to where we are now, where Italy won each game of group stages other than the 2 games against Norway, which then led to, of course, Norway going through straight away, meaning that they're now led to the playoffs and the draw will be sometime this week. Now, would I say they've collapsed again here? No, but when I look at the team, no one is thinking that Italy will end up winning or even really going far in a tournament for quite some time now. Serie A used to be the pinnacle of European football back in the late to mid 2000s. It's definitely not like that anymore. It could be the infrastructure of the country in terms of how it gives their youth players a chance. I don't know exactly where to pinpoint it on, but Italy are at a point now where it could become an actual serious problem with if they fail to qualify to 3 World Cups. That's almost unheard of. It's as unheard of as Spain or Germany or France failing to qualify for a World Cup 3 times in a row. It is that big of a deal. Comment about your thoughts on the Italian national team, the fall, other than the one time they won the entire thing. Still, let's get off Southgate. Thank you for being here, and comment about your thoughts, like and subscribe, and I'll see you boys next time. See ya.